So, moving swiftly on. Okay, we are operating in a world where one good video can result in massive exposure. And there's nowhere like the toolbox to prove that, to, you know, in this day and age, because we've seen the result that one of the members has had from one very simple video. And that kind of result can happen for any of you guys. Yes, it's a matter of the right video, the right time, the right place, the right content, but anybody can create that. Any one of you can create that kind of momentum in your business. Now, was it deliberately created by Steve? The answer to that is no. It was deliberately hoped for. It was hoped that it could do something like that, but I don't think any of us really knew just how well that video would do. And as a result of that video, many of you will know, some of you may not. You may have been living under a rock the last few days. You know, as a result of that video, Steve has managed to be on TV, he's managed to be on radio, and he's managed to be in local papers. That's all local. Forget about the national stuff that's happening. The fact that he is getting recognition from other bloggers, that people are copying his video. I've seen a version of it where they've copied some of the content from the video and done a different voiceovers. But the point is, his content is getting out there, and locally it has helped him to build a profile which he can now leverage, and he can build even better on that profile in a local area. You know, having the tagline "as seen on TV" or "as heard on the radio" or "as featured in" has got to be and will be fantastic for his marketing. So video, as I keep saying, and I've said for a long time, video is not going away as a marketing tool. Video is just going to become more important, more influential, more vital to you as a asset, as a marketing asset in your business. There's some fantastic stuff going on in terms of live video, live streaming. You know, all of the social platforms are doing live video now. You can do live video on YouTube. That was the early start. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. There's so many different platforms where you can actually do live video, but doing recorded video is the next best thing, obviously. And having time to record your content and think about your content is you know, it's really going to help move people and move businesses forward. You think about it. Just think, less than 10-15 years ago, if you wanted to have a TV advert, or if you wanted to be featured in a TV program, you either needed to have a PR company behind you pushing your agenda, or you needed to have a fortune to spend to get onto a TV advert or a TV program. And in this day and age, today, you can create your own TV channel. It's called YouTube. I mean, there's other platforms. There's Vimeo and YouTube, and there's other ways of doing it. YouTube, obviously, being the bigger of the video platforms. It's the second biggest search engine in the world. And video content is going to be and is so important for your video and I for your business. And I encourage all of you to be using video. Look, out of the vast amount of tradesmen that are out there, you know, when I started teaching this, there was very few people doing video, very few tradesmen doing video. When I first started teaching this as a tactic, as a strategy, and now you've got a huge amount of them out there. But even still, that is a small percentage of all the tradesmen in the country. I mean, look around just your local area. How many electricians in your local area are creating content videos? And I can guarantee you look around and you'll go, you know, even your biggest competition aren't doing it, potentially. But if you look at the impact that it has, there's a number of tradesmen now who are vlogging, video blogging, doing daily blogs online. There are companies who have taken this to a completely different level and doing it. And we still have people, other tradespeople, other electricians, hopefully not you, perhaps it is, but hopefully not you, who are afraid to get involved, who are afraid to do stuff. I've got to stop hitting the buttons with my hand. Who are afraid to do stuff and are afraid to get involved because they're looking at the ones who are doing it and doing it extremely well, and they're comparing themselves to those people, and they're saying, oh, I'm not that good, so therefore I'm not good enough. And that's rubbish. That's absolutely and totally rubbish. You've got to remember why you want to be doing it, and why you want to be doing it is to raise your profile locally. And too many of us step back and are shy about creating content because we're afraid of how we're going to be perceived. We're afraid of how people will look at us or judge us, or we're afraid that people are going to slag us off or knock us down. Look, the truth is they will. Simple as that. It happens. Get over it. There will be people out there who will slag you off. There are people who will tell you how stupid you are. There are people who will tell you that your information is wrong. All of that. That's all going to happen. But you've got to build a bridge. You've got to get over that shit, because there is so much value in doing this stuff. There is so much value in creating this stuff that, you know, one person or two people or three people telling you that it's shit is just not worth listening to. You know, if I stopped creating the toolbox after the first 2 or 3 webinars where I had a handful of emails from people telling me how shit it was and what a con it was and what a you know, how stupid I was and all of that. If I stopped at that point, if I let my ego get the better of me at that point and say, you know what, I'm not going to put myself up for ridicule, then there would be no toolbox. Simple as that. If every person who puts content out on the web stopped at the point where somebody told them that they were doing the wrong thing, or that they were stupid, or that it was wrong, whatever, there wouldn't be content out there. So, you know, there will be people, there are what I like to call, in inverted commas, and you've seen them on some of the different websites, there are, in inverted commas, keyboard warriors. There are these people who like to hide behind the keyboard, and they're happy to slag people off. But when you look at their life and you think about what have they done, what have they created, what have they achieved, what content have they pushed out, what value have they given to their customers? No, they'll sit there, you know, they're probably and you look at some of these other forums, these other websites, you look at these people who I like to call keyboard warriors, and you'll find that, you know, 80 to 90% of them are in jobs. They're not running their own businesses, but they're happy to sit out there and pontificate and tell you how you should be doing things and what you should be doing. And they're not running their own company. They're not running their own businesses. They're not striving for a better life. They're getting up and doing it, thinking 9 to 5, and then sitting down in the evening because they've got the time to be a keyboard warrior and slag everybody off. Anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a rant. That wasn't the intention this morning, but I think the intention from what I've just been talking about is to encourage you. Please start putting content out there. Start putting it out there. Start working on videos. Get information out there. There's lots and lots of training. We're going to go over some brief stuff here at the moment, but there's lots of training in the toolbox about video, simply because I believe it is so important. We have run training events on video because I believe it is so important. It is a fantastic way to expose yourself as an expert. It's a fantastic way to build relationships with people before they've ever come across you, before they have ever met you. There are at least 3 toolbox members that I know of who are using video effectively, who will tell you that when they turn up on somebody's doorstep, they will say to them, you know, I'm pleased it's you, this turned up because it's you I saw in the video, or I called you because of the video. It works. It's a simple thing. And it will position you extremely well. So, okay, with that all said, there are a number of things that I want to get through this morning. Sorry guys, if you're interested in proceeding with this, let me see some thumbs, some fingers, some hearts going across that screen at the moment, because I've waffled on and I have ranted for a little bit there. But there's 3 areas that I want to look at this morning. Well, there's a few areas I want to look at this morning. First and foremost, I want to look at the equipment, because that's, again, one of the questions that I get asked quite often is what kind of equipment do I need? It's a question that comes up time and time again. What kind of equipment do I need? Next thing is stingers, these intros. Where do I get them? What are they about? Why do I need one? And a stinger, for those of you, well, we'll talk about that when we get to the slide. The next thing that is important is software. What software do I need? How do I edit my videos? How do I make them look good? How do I make them sound good? So those are the three key areas that I want to cover, and then with time allowing, what I want to do is give some very simple tips on recording your videos, on the things you should and shouldn't be doing with your videos. So if we're ready for that, if we're interested in that, if that's what you want to hear about this morning, let me see lots of those hearts going across. Let's just have hearts this morning going across that screen. If these are areas that are of interest to you. Like I said, the top three are areas where I get the most questions, where I've seen the most questions in the toolbox. So we're gonna run through those. If you guys have questions, then please get the questions in. You know, now's the time, now's the chance to have those questions answered. Whether it's on equipment, whether it's on the stingers, whether it's on software, or if there's particular tips that you actually want to cover. You know, if I'm truly honest about it, some of the people in the toolbox who are creating videos at the moment and doing well with these videos, when I first met them, when I first introduced the concept of doing videos with them, they were not just shy of the camera, but I would say afraid of the camera to an extent. And I'm hoping that the guys won't mind me saying this, but if we look at I don't know if he's on the call just yet this morning, but if we look at Rob Cassie, Rob was extremely shy and didn't want to stand in front of the camera. He was one who told me he probably would never stand in front of the camera. Darren Spencer, another person who was shy and willing to try, but very nervous about getting in front of the camera. And you would not believe me if I told you that Steve Palmer refused, point blankly refused on a number of occasions to actually get in front of a camera. He just did not feel comfortable in front of the camera at all. And you look at some of the stuff that Steve is producing at the moment. Now I have been lucky enough to see that developing, and I've been lucky enough to see some of the videos that he has in the bag, so to say, which he needs to be getting up on his YouTube channel soon. But to see that development, and then to see somebody like Steve, who I mean it, guys, was extremely nervous in front of the camera, did not feel comfortable in front of the camera, but to see him go from that to what's just happened with his recent video, you know, that is a hell of a lot. That's a big, you know, huge step, and any of you can do it. Any one of you can do it. I keep saying that starting to using video is a little bit like learning how to ride a bicycle. The more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. So we're going to look at some of these areas. So we're going to look at the equipment, the stinger, the software, and then I'm going to try and give you a few basic tips to get you going, to get you started, to help you overcome nerves, to help you make your video look, sound, feel a little bit better. So with that said, we're going to move quickly on, and we're going to take a look first of all at cameras. Now, when I started out doing video myself for my old company, Kent Electrics, I used to use a very simple video camera called a S.P.A.R.K.S, which was very basic, a little S.P.A.R.K. Now I don't have a sample of that to show you, but it was a small handheld. Back then they used to call them flip cams, and I think flip cams, there are still some of them available, less and less so. But it had built-in mic. You put an SD card into it and you could carry it around in your pocket and literally just whack it up onto a stand and use it in any location. And that's what I liked about it. It was very flexible, and because I was using it in the electrical business, I wanted it to be small, compact and easy to use. So what I did as time went on, I graduated from the S.P.A.R.K. and I got myself a Kodak ZI-8. Now you might want to write these things down, guys, because this, this kind of progression will help you as well. So the Kodak ZI-8. Let me first of all explain the reason why I got that initially. There are not a lot of handycams or small cameras out there that have the capability to plug in a microphone. And when you're working in an environment where there's lots of noise, or an empty building where there's lots of echo and that kind of thing, you need to have the ability to plug in an external microphone, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Because by using a lavalier mic, your sound quality is going to be better. So the reason for choosing the ZI-8 was because for its size in the market, in terms of price, its portability, it allowed me to, number one, attach it to a tripod, because it's got the thread on the bottom which allows it to attach to a tripod, and it allowed me to plug in a microphone. Now there's a sample up on the screen, and I've got one here just to show you. So the ZI-8, very small, very compact, fits in your pocket. However, it is threaded at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that, threaded at the bottom, so that you can actually fit that onto a little tripod, or a large tripod. You can fit it on any size tripod, and mount it where you actually want to use it. I used this camera for so long before sort of switching. I'll tell you what I switched to in a minute. And it also has an external mic jack, which I find extremely important on these handycams. And like I said, maybe it's getting a little bit better today, but there were no handycams with mic jacks up until discovering this, or there was very few, and the ones that were available were extremely expensive. So these things, I don't believe Kodak are actually making these anymore. They may be making a different model, but the ZI-8, you can pick these up now, and I think they used to be about 180 quid, something like that. But you can pick these up now on eBay from people who've bought them. They've bought them to go on holiday with, they've used them once or twice, and then they've stuck them up on eBay. But you can put them on eBay and buy them for about 30 quid. So, and they're really, really handy. You stick an SD card in it, charge it up, take it with you, and use it wherever you go. Great for grabbing quick testimonials off customers. You've got a little start button here on the back. Very good for grabbing quick testimonials off customers, because you can just take it out, wrap it out, and simply go. So, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, whatever the names are, we've completed the job. How do you feel about it? Yada yada yada. Would you mind doing a quick video? Boom, job done. This thing was fantastic for me to start out on. After that, I moved to a Zoom Q4. Now, Zoom cameras, or Zoom as a brand, are better known for amplification rather than for video. So the reason that I actually went for the Zoom Q4 was for the audio quality. And you find when you are creating videos, when you're posting videos on your website, people will forgive you for grainy video. People will forgive you for jumpy video. But when it comes to sound, it seems to be that people are more fussy about sound quality. And that's one of the reasons why I moved over to the Q4. And the Q4 has a fantastic built-in Zoom mic that's built into the actual camera itself, which has really good pickup. So if you were working in a long distance from the camera, it was picking you up pretty well. But it also had the ability to plug in an external mic, a lavalier mic, which, again, as I say, it is very important to have that ability when you are working close up with stuff, when you need to be heard. Having the ability to plug in an external mic is extremely important. So those of you who have got camcorders at home that you cannot plug a mic into, my suggestion is don't use those for your videos unless you have an extremely quiet environment where it is literally just you in the room, and you're close enough to be picked up by the sound, because sound quality in your video is extremely important. And of course, then after that, and pretty much since then, I've been working with an iPhone, you know, and I'll say iPhone, but a smartphone, okay? Because today the camera in your smartphone and the audio quality for recording in your smartphone is as good as any of these other two cameras now. The you know, the cameras now that are built into these, I want to keep saying iPhone, but you know what I mean. The cameras that are built into these smartphones now are, in some cases, far superior than the likes of the S.P.A.R.K.S that I was using back in the early days. The microphones, the pickup on these microphones, without having to plug a microphone in, the pickup on these is absolutely fantastic as well. Those of you who've been creating videos will know what I'm talking about. And the ability to plug in an external mic, and in some cases, if you get the right kind of equipment, a Bluetooth mic as well, which means you can go further away from the camera, is extremely good as well. So, you know, nowadays when somebody says to me, what camera do I need? I simply say, you've got it. The camera that you need, the camera that you want. You don't have to go out and spend a fortune. You don't have to spend money on getting camera equipment. If you have a smartphone, and many of you do, I would imagine the most of you do, if you have a smartphone, you have all the camera equipment you need. Now, can you go out and buy better flash cameras? Yes, you can, and I have done. You know, I've got a Panasonic and I've got a Sony, but when I'm recording my my quick videos, my toolbox TVs and that kind of thing, I revert back to this. Yes, I'll have the Panasonic at the back of the room when I'm doing a big presentation or anything like that, recording the day's stuff. But I always revert back to these for my quick how-to videos or my toolbox TVs, that kind of thing. So you have the camera that you need. It's as simple as that. If you have a smartphone, you don't need to spend a fortune on a camera. So the next thing that you will need is you're going to need a way of mounting the camera, because there's nothing worse than having someone holding a camera while you're recording and having this constant sort of movement on the camera, which you see when people are holding cameras, you know, when you've got the wife holding the camera or the kids holding the camera for you. So you need some way of holding it, and obviously we're talking about tripods here. And again, you know, tripods do not have to be expensive. The model that's on the screen here at the moment, I think you can buy it for about 30 quid on Amazon. It's a small telescopic tripod, and it's good enough it will bring the camera up to eye level, or down to where you're kneeling down at sockets and stuff. It's very, very light, easily transportable. Stick it in the back of the van. But having something like that to steady the camera while you present. Now, in the early days, when I was using the S.P.A.R.K.S, it didn't have the mount. You know, the ZI-8 was the first one that had the mount for the tripod. But when I was using the S.P.A.R.K.S, I used to stand that up in all sorts of different things. I had, you know, the insulation for pipes, the blue or the grey wrap that goes around pipes. I used to have those. I'd cut a small section of those and slot the camera into it. Just shave off the bottom of it with a standing knife so it was flat, and plop that down. Acted as a perfect stand. You could stick pieces of wood or matchsticks into it to stop it from leaning back and forth. It was a very good stand. I have used bags of little rice bags, beanbag type things, to prop cameras into as well. But you know, for the cost of a, you know, it's priced at like 30 quid. What is it? Less than a night out, a couple of pints. You can get a really decent telescopic tripod. Or the other thing that I used to love was my Gorillapod, and a Gorillapod is literally a well, here's one of the ones that I had. I got a number of them afterwards, but a Gorillapod is simply a very flexible tripod. And the nice thing about having one of these in the van when you're going out doing how-to videos or anything like that is you can mount it wherever you like. You can wrap this thing around scaffolding. It will hold on to door jambs. You know, you can wrap it around the handle of doors. You can, I've had it wrapped around trees, lamp posts, doors, chairs, and of course using it just standing on a table as well. But I've also got, and I haven't got it to hand here, but I've also got a magnetic version of one of these, that if you have a metal framework, you can just stick it to it and the camera on top, and away you go. So you end up with a very stable platform that is very flexible in terms of where you can actually use it. And also in this picture you can see that there is a mount for the camera. Sorry, if you're using an iPhone, you will need something to mount the iPhone into. And again, there are a number of different mounts. I mean, this is one, there's one on screen, this is another one here. It's just a flexible mount that when you trap your iPhone, there you go, when you trap the iPhone inside of it, that then screws onto a tripod, and that will hold your camera really steady. Now the interesting thing is that on the likes of Amazon and eBay and that, you can reach out and you can buy these things, and they'll probably cost you £3 or £5 or whatever for these things. Or you can almost embarrassingly mention this, or you can go into a pound shop and buy a one of these selfie sticks. Now if I did that, there's a selfie stick for £1. Okay, that was £1 in a pound shop, Poundland, or one of those type of things. And on top of the stick, if you never use a selfie stick, and you will probably want to use a selfie stick at some point when you're doing your videos, but on the top of the selfie stick, it comes already with the phone mount on it that you can detach and then use that without having to spend a fortune on expensive ones, and then use that on any other tripod that you may want to use it on. Which makes the phone very versatile and very flexible. And then you might want to have some form of a remote, and most selfie sticks will come with a little push button remote that you can use to start your video recording when you are ready. You just keep a little remote down by your side and click it, and off she goes and records. So that's some of the bits and pieces that you will want. I mentioned microphones. And don't forget, guys, if you do have questions, then get the questions into the box. And remember, I'm going over some very basic stuff here to help guys get started with video, to look at getting you started. None of this kit or equipment is expensive. None of this is spending a fortune or a top end on gear, because I don't want the cost of equipment to be a barrier. And I don't want you thinking that you've got to spend a huge amount of money. Yes, you can go and buy tripods for 60, 100, 300 quid. Yes, you can go out and buy expensive cameras. That's not what this is about. This is about taking what you've got. It's about minimal spend, which is what the toolbox is about in terms of marketing. Low and no cost marketing. And this is low. You don't have to spend a fortune on these things to get some decent quality video. Anyway, we talked about microphones. So a couple of things on mics very briefly. A lavalier mic, that is we've got one on screen, but I've also got one just here as well to show you. A little lavalier mic, and some of you will have seen me using these in videos or at events. It will clip onto your jumper, your shirt, whatever. It needs to be relatively close to your mouth. But the nice thing about it is it will pick the sound up from sort of around that area, but it will eliminate a lot of the background noise, which means that if you're working in an environment like you're on a building site, or you're doing a rewire on a property and there's a lot of noise in the background, or you're out on the street and there's a lot of noise in the background, having a lavalier mic will ensure that all the background noise, or the majority of the background noise, will disappear. And we mentioned earlier that sound is important. Now, you can buy these things, believe it or not, to operate on an iPhone. You can buy these things as cheaply as about £4 on Amazon. What I would suggest you do if you are looking for them on Amazon, what I suggest you do, you'll probably pay a little bit more than 4, but look for the ones that have the extremely long leads. You know, go for, this one's got a short lead. This one's, I think it's only got a metre and a half or something like that. But go for something that's got like a 3 metre or a 4 metre lead on it. So it allows you to get a good distance back away from the camera, so you can frame yourself in it. Now, I've got a number of these lavalier mics, different lengths. But you know, if you're starting out, get one with a nice long lead on it, so that you can get away from the camera. The other alternative, the other thing you can do is, and it's up on screen, is get radio mics. Now, the one I'm showing on screen is a Sennheiser, which is probably the top end of the market. The Sennheiser radio pack, which allows you to have a lavalier mic on a radio pack and a receiver back at the camera, whether the camera happens to be your iPhone or another form of camera. And it allows you then to go some distance and to move throughout the job if you're working on it. So these radio packs make it very, very flexible. However, they are expensive. You know, using Sennheiser gear is expensive. It's the top end of the market. However, there are cheaper versions out there. You can get a radio pack for as cheap as, well, actually, I was going to say 30 quid. You can get a reasonable one for about 30 quid. Actually, bear with me 1 second, because just bear with me 1 second. This is quite unprofessional of me. Okay, so this one here is a Nandy, and this one I think this one cost about 35-40 quid, and it's good enough. You know, you're never going to go miles from the camera. You may pick up a little bit of radio interference because it's not as shielded or as well protected as the Sennheiser, but it's good enough. That's a Nandy, and you can buy those in the electronics shop. What's it called? Come on, help me out, guys. The name has slipped my brain there for a minute. Somebody type it into the box. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. Oh, it's gone. But anyway, you can buy those quite cheaply, 35-40 quid to get a as I said, this one's called a Nandy. There are different setups out there, and it's just a very simple wireless transmitter with it has its buddy, which is the receiver, and they'll do the job. So you don't have to go to the expense of something like a Sennheiser. Thank you very much, Steve Oakey, Maplin, Richard Bartley, Maplin, Ben Grant, Maplin. That's what we're talking about, Maplins. You can get these things in Maplins relatively cheap, but don't expect them to be, you know, hugely quality driven like the Sennheiser ones. You know, you get what you pay for, but they're good enough to do the job. And I know some of the guys are using them. You can buy them on Amazon as well. But the point being, it gives you that flexibility to move away from the camera. And also, you know, if you're doing external shots, if you are working outside and you want to do some external work, but you want the camera a distance away, then it's good to have that flexibility to get away from the camera. Now, bearing in mind, guys, when I'm talking about these are things that you could have and will eventually build up as part of your kit to help you do video. But don't let any of it stop you from doing video, because everything you need is inside your smartphone. So these are nice things to have, and they're nice things to build up to use and make use of. But don't don't stop doing video because you say, oh, I don't have a lavalier mic, and I don't have a radio mic, and I don't have this. So you know, just work with what you've got and build up to what you actually want or what you'd like to have. Next thing, of course, then is a boom mic. This is a Rode boom mic. The one I have here is a Hanal boom mic. Very same thing. Again, these will fit on the top of a tripod. They have a mount here that fits on top of a tripod, so you can mount this wherever you want, near to your camera. Plug it into the camera and it will pick up. It's a directional mic, so it will limit some of the external noise, but not all of it. You need to point it straight at the what they call on video the talent i.e. the person who's talking. So you need to point the mic at the person, and it reduces some of the noise from around the mic, and is more focused on picking up the person. So, you know, these things, about 30 quid, again, you know, Maplin, or even PC World. This one actually came from PC World. There is, as you can see, the one on screen, there's a sleeve that goes over this. It's not on this one, but there's a sleeve that goes over this, which is called a Windsock. It just simply prevents wind noise. They're good for using outdoors, indoors, and again, the lavalier mic is going to give you some better sound quality and close-up stuff. But if you want some background noise, for example, if you want some of that tap 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 on the building site or the drilling, and you want a little bit of background ambient noise while you're actually being picked up also, then these things can be quite useful. So that's a boom mic or a directional microphone. So the next thing was stingers. What do we mean by stingers? Stingers are these little title slides, if you like, or title videos that we use at the beginning and end of our video. Some of you will have seen the ones that the members use. I've got a couple of samples up on screen. Obviously these ones look static because they're just up on as an image on the screen, but these are little short videos that will transition in and bring in your company logo, and then transition out, and should have some form of contact detail on the actual stinger itself. So when I say contact detail, you know, your call to action. What is it you want the person to do? Do you want the person to visit your website? Do you want them to phone you, or do you want them to email you? That being the case, when your stinger transitions out, you should have those details on the screen, either your email address, your phone number, or your web address. Now, I wouldn't suggest you have all three, because these things should be very short, transition in and transition out, and you don't want people having to read lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of information. They basically introduce you, and they should be short. You do not want to have a long stinger going into your video and a long stinger going out of your video. You just need, you've seen the type of thing on Toolbox TV. It comes in, brings the logo in, and then it fades across to the actual video itself. These are a good method of branding. They add a really good professional touch to your video. They make them look professional, and they help to promote you if you have your address and details on your outgoing transition. So they should be short. They should have sound associated with it. Now, some of them will have music, and some of them will have just a sound, a whooshing sound, or something that attracts the viewer's attention. And the idea of that is when you autoplay these things on your website, if they're out of view on the website and they autoplay when the website is loaded, the noise should be enough to attract the person watching the site to think, what is it? What's going on? And to have them curious enough to go and search and look for it. But each person will have an individual, whether they prefer some music, whether they prefer a short sound, but have a sound associated with it. So short and a sound, and have your details on it for people to be able to contact you in the way you want them to. But don't stack up all of your contact details. You know, don't have landline, mobile, web address, email address, because people they just go blind to it. So have a contact method, one way that they can actually get hold of you on the outgoing stinger. Hopefully that makes sense. Where do you get these things made? Well, you can create them yourself, but that can be a bit complex. There is software you can get to actually do it, or you can go to Fiverr, Fiverr.com. If that's a revelation to you, you've never heard of it before. Fiverr.com is a website where you can get freelance designers, programmers, and so on and so forth, who will do work for you, starting at, guess what, a $5, and that's $5. So that's the starting price, but I think typically these things cost between $10 and $15. $10 and $15 for something like this. There's one guy who does them, whose name I cannot recall, but there's one guy who's been doing them for the Toolbox members for a while, and he tends to give you a selection. Now he's obviously got the right kind of software. He can, you know, it doesn't take him long to do it. You provide him with your logo and what you want on there, and then he will send you back a selection of 10 or 12 to choose from. Now what I would suggest is, for branding purposes, when you get back the selection that you have, choose one. Don't mix them up. Don't use lots of different ones. Stick with one in terms of branding yourself. But yeah, they're very, very easy to get on Fiverr. I'm sure if you put a post in here asking who the guys are using, somebody will have this chap's name. But there is a guy on Fiverr that many of the Toolbox guys have used to create these things. I have seen one or two of the members who've created their own. It can be done, but you know what? If for the sake of $5, for the sake of well, in this case probably $10, which is what, £7, something like that, I think it's worth spending to get it done professionally, have it looking good, getting the resolution right, getting the sound right, getting the timing right, all of that. I think it's worth spending just a couple of quid on doing that. Phil Graham's put up Johnny 911, and you know what? I think that is exactly who it is, Johnny 911. I'm sure I've used that myself. And that will be the guy's name on Fiverr. Don Matthews is another one. And Don Matthews, I'm not sure about the stingers, but I know Don Matthews does all of the headers for the website, for the YouTube, for Facebook, for Twitter. He does all of those headers and brandings that you've seen many of the guys using over the course of the last sort of 12 to 18 months. He's very good at doing it, and he's very quick at turning them around as well. And I'm sure Steve is suggesting that he also does the video ones as well. That may be the case. So that is our stingers. Next thing you will want is a lower third. What is a lower third, I hear you ask? Well, a lower third is the little slide that comes across that has, now it can come up anywhere on the screen, but they call it a lower third. There you go. And it's that little slide. You often see it in the newscasters where your name comes in, some details can come in, and again, you can create these things yourselves, or you can spend a $5 on a website like Fiverr and have a nice professional one created for you, which will have your branding on it, your name, and your contact details. Couple of key things: make them legible. Make sure that when it's played on a video, people can actually read it. Make sure when it's positioned on the video, it doesn't cut you out of the video. And all of this is decided at the creation phase when you create these things. And you create it once and you can use it in multiple videos, because all it really is a transparent slide with some graphics on it. So when you overlay it over a video, you can overlay it over any video that you create. You don't have to create a new one for each video. You don't have to technically add it to each video. You do add it by just overlaying it. It's very, very easy. You just load it up, stick it in front of the video, and when the video plays, it comes in, and you can have it transition in, transition out. Many of you will have seen that in the Toolbox TV videos, where when the video starts and the stinger plays out, you'll see my name scroll across the screen. It stays there for a few seconds normally while I get the conversation started, and then it scrolls off and it disappears. And there's a good reason for doing the scrolling in and scrolling out. Number one, instead of having it there all of the time, blocking what you may be doing on video, you can get it out of the way so that you can be seen on the video. But also, that movement attracts attention to it. And if you have a call to action on it, i.e. your phone number, call James today, or something like that, if you're using it for your electrical business and you're doing a how-to video, if you want help, call James, whatever, and you have that on the stinger, that movement attracts attention to it. If you just have it up there permanently, it's just blind, they get blind to it. So having the stinger come in and out at the beginning of a video and having it come in and out at the end of a video is a good way of attracting attention to your contact details. But again, you can create them yourself quite easily. You can do that. You can create them in PowerPoint, guys. But for a professional look and feel, I would go to Fiverr and have it created for the sake of spending $5. I think it's well and truly worth it. So that's the lower thirds. So guys, just for anybody who's been joining late, all I'm doing here at the moment is going over some tips on video, some of the most commonly asked questions. You will get asked about equipment, about software, excuse me, so about equipment and about software. So all I'm doing is going over some of the low and no cost things that do to get started on video. There's a lot, as you know, anybody who's attended the workshop that we did on video, there's a lot more in depth you can do. You can break these all of these areas down into a lot more detail and a lot more content. But what I want to do is answer some of the basic questions to encourage you guys to start creating videos, to start using videos. We've seen from Steve's success recently that, you know, you get the right video at the right time, you can have a phenomenal amount of success with video, and video is not going away. So for those of you who just joined or have just jumped in on the live cast, that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. This lower thirds, we'll get some questions about lower thirds. We've had questions about the stingers and the equipment. So going on to software. Again, what do you use to edit the... sorry guys, bear with me. What do you use to edit the videos? There is a lot of expensive software out there. One of the better ones in the market is Camtasia. However, Camtasia will cost you somewhere in the region of about £800 if you buy it outright, or £60 a month, something like that, if you are using it on a subscription model. I have Camtasia, but if I'm really honest about it, I do not use Camtasia. I think I have probably used, since I bought Camtasia, I've probably used it twice. And the reason I don't tend to use it myself is because, again, when I started the toolbox, my objective was to look at low and no cost marketing. Things that you could do that were accessible, that were cheap, that had a low entry point, that you didn't have to spend a fortune on. And when I started using video in the electrical business, that's exactly what I was doing. I was using low and no cost stuff. It wasn't... I didn't have Camtasia at that time, and many of you know the story. I didn't have money to freaking well spend on buying Camtasia at that time, but I've bought it since. And since buying it, as I said, I've probably used it twice, because I actually go back to the software that I prefer, and I'll talk about that one in a moment. But before I do, you need to know that there are opposite ends of the scale. You've got these expensive ones, but then there are some free open source ones. Now I know Gary Pratt is a big fan of using open source software. And to an extent, so am I. You know, if it's available and it's free, then why not use it? And OpenShot is one of those. That's one that Gary introduced me to. It's a very good, very stable open source platform, which means it's totally free, and the only thing you pay is if you voluntarily want to contribute to the people who actually spend the time building the software, and then you can send them a PayPal payment or whatever. But other than that, it is actually free to use. But then there's the one that I always recommend, and the reason I recommend, and when I recommend something, guys, it's normally because I'm using it myself and getting good results using it. And if I'm using it myself and getting results using it, then I can teach how to use it, if that makes sense. I can work my way around Camtasia. I can use Camtasia. Am I competent enough and comfortable enough teaching Camtasia? No. You know, if you came to me and you asked for some hints and tips, I could probably help you. Same thing with OpenShot. I've had a look at it. I know how it works. But I use a piece of software called Nch Video Pad. And Nch Video Pad, depending on when you buy it, and there are various different deals and offers out on the web, it is a low-cost piece of software. Now, they do a free trial. They do a free version. And I'm not sure now, but originally, the free version was free for life as long as you were not using the software commercially. I don't know if that offer still lasts, but if you weren't using it commercially, i.e. using it for your business, but you were just using it to make home videos and for your personal channel and stuff like that, it used to be completely free, and then you wouldn't use it for your business, but that's the free version. But then the paid version, it opens up a few other features. It gives you more soundtracks if you want to use more soundtracks. It gives you more video tracks if you want to use more video tracks. But for what it costs, like I said, you know, you can pick it up for 47 or 67 quid, depending on when you buy it. They do different offers, different deals, different sales. I would shop around on the web and see where's the cheapest you could get it. Once you buy it, it's a one-off fee. It's not a monthly fee. It's not a recurring fee. It is a one-off payment. And it's a very easy piece of software to use. It's very, very intuitive. Now, when I say that, all of these software packages work on a very similar principle. You know, the screen will look very similar to what you see up on screen at the moment. When you load a video into it, you will have a section where you can list all of the videos. Sorry, I'm pointing at the screen. I'm hoping you can see my pointer. You have a section where you can upload all of your videos, and then you would select from there the videos that you want and put them down onto the timeline. And on the timeline you can see the audio, the clear audio from your video. And somebody in the toolbox gave a very good tip that we talk about when we do the live training, the workshop on video, that when you create a mistake in a video, or you're starting a section of a video, is to give 3 sharp claps. And what those claps do is they will raise the spike on the timeline, and that means then that you can find that spike on the timeline. You'll see clearly where that audio, that clap happened, and you can go straight to that section and cut that section out, or you'll know exactly where it helps to bring you to the area where you are. Also, if you have 2 or 3 cameras running at the same time, oh, excuse me. If you have 2 or 3 cameras running at the same time, which sometimes you will see me do, I will record a Toolbox TV or a training presentation with camera to one side, camera to the other side, and the camera in front, and you'll see the head turns. Well, when you do this clap, the 3 claps on the timeline, and you get that spike, it helps you to marry up the 3 tracks, because on the videos they stack up one on top of the other, and you can then marry up those sharp spikes in the audio track. Excuse me, voice is going again. The spikes in the audio track to help track the video, so that the video synchronizes and comes up together. So if some of you are wondering how people synchronize videos from 2 or 3 different cameras, that's one of the methods that is used. But using this type of software is extremely easy, because on that timeline that you're seeing on screen at the moment, you can edit the video, you can cut the video, you can increase the volume, you can change the speed of the video. There's a number of different things that you can do. It's so easy to use. And then of course you have the canvas up here, which is there's a gormless looking face, but you have the canvas up here where you can see the work that you have actually created, that you've done, before you save it or before you render it to into an actual MP4 video. So the software is extremely easy to use. I would recommend NCH, and I only like I say, I recommend it because I use it. It's a bit like when I recommend Aweber as an autoresponder. I recommend it because it does what you want it to do. It's cheap, and I know how to use it. So if I know how to use it, I can show you how to use it. Simple as that. So that is the editing software. Hopefully that makes sense. But like I said, there is open source stuff out there. Gary's a big fan of open source software, and you may be you may want to use that instead. Most of these softwares, they operate on the same principle. The likes of Camtasia will be a little bit trickier to use and is more of a professional end product. But they all operate on a very similar principle in terms of, when you put your video on, you can drag it down onto the timeline, you can cut, you can edit, you can change everything, all on the timeline. They work on pretty much the same kind of principle. Okay, moving over to some tips. Lighting, we talked about lighting. Okay, I'm a fan of using natural light where you can. If you have windows, if you're working outdoors, if it's a well-lit building, make use of what natural light there is, because as soon as you start introducing artificial light, you start introducing issues with shadows and the like. We're not creating Hollywood blockbusters, so all we really need is to have the scene lit relatively well. We're not looking at creating lots of mood lighting or anything like that they do in Hollywood. You don't need to go out to and use or buy lots of expensive lighting equipment. If I told you at the moment, I don't know how good it's looking at the moment, but at this moment in time, I have no artificial light on me. Sorry, no artificial. That's wrong. I don't mean that. I have no additional lighting apart from the overhead lighting here in the room, and I think that's pretty much good enough for what we are doing. I've got Facebook messages coming up on my screen. Why is that? So okay, lighting. As long as you are lighting the subject, whether that's you or a piece of work, in a way that the camera can pick it up and it's not looking distorted, then you've won, basically. I did talk to or look at one video this week. I talked to one of the guys who was doing video this week, and his video was coming out grainy. His automatic reaction was to think it was the software, to think that there was something wrong with either the software or the computer that he was creating the video on, that he was rendering the video on. But when you look at the video, you'll see a badly lit video will have a grainy, pixelated appearance. And that's what was wrong with his video. It was grainy because he hadn't lit himself properly when he started. He was in a very dimly lit room, very dimly lit area. So what you need to do is make sure that there is some light on you. Now, when you introduce artificial light, you introduce the possibility of shadows. So what you want to do is counter those shadows by introducing some backlighting. And there's a way to do it that you can eliminate, or you can highlight the background, but also eliminate shadows as well. Again, you do not need to go out and buy expensive equipment. I will have to say, up to date, I have not bought a professional lighting rig for any of the videos that I have created. All of the videos I have created, whether they were with the old Kent Electrics YouTube channel or whether they have been with the Toolbox, if I have used lighting, I have used home rigged lighting, and invariably that has been sight lights off of the van. Now the van's got long gone, sight lights and everything are still stacked out in the storage, but I used basically the in the early days it was the old halogen sight lights, later moved over to LED sight lights, and when you position them correctly, when you position them around, and you only need to have 3 lights to get a really good lighting effect. So let me just show you. Somebody asked a question earlier. Guys, do not go spending a fortune on, because you can go out and buy professional photography lighting kits and so on and so forth. You don't need them. Okay, yes, you can buy them. If you want to spend the money on them, great, go ahead and do it. But again, if you can rig up some lighting yourself, whether it's some LED lights, whether you got some sight lights, whether you get some fluorescent lighting, if you can rig them up yourself, a lot cheaper and easier. But here we go. So what you need is what they call a fill light. Now the fill light is the one that would be near the camera, pointing at you, okay, pointing at your face. You need to have some backlighting to counter that and to stop shadows of you dropping back on the wall behind. If you are standing on a background where white wall or a wall that a shadow will be cast on, then the fill light will cast a light back over, and you'll see the shadow in the background. So you put a backlight behind and off to one side to wash across the background, the wall that you're working on. Now, if you do this properly, you can create that what they call that apple white background. You know, that really clear white background that makes it look like you're standing in the ether. You're standing nowhere, basically, and it really clear and crisp. And it doesn't matter what quality the wall is. If you light it correctly, if you wash the wall correctly with a strong enough light, you can create that whiteout behind you. That makes you come up really, really, really clear. And then you need to have the third light, which will basically take out all of the shadow. Sorry, that's the fill light. Sorry, so you've got your main light, which will light you, the subject, and then you have your fill light to take out the shadow. Now that will be positioned based on where the worst sort of shadows are coming on your face, on you, the person. And you need to look at the camera, you need to look at some of the footage to see, because when you have a light, a main light on you, it will sort of either cast shadows down from your eyes, down across your face, which I quite often get on these shows, because all of the light here is coming from the top, and it really highlights the bags under my eyes because the light is coming down and we get shadows coming down. But sometimes when you're lighting a subject, you'll have light coming in from the main light, which will cast shadows off of the nose or off of the chin, and it throws the shadow over, and it just makes the whole thing look off. So your fill light needs to go to counteract those shadows. So you'll move that around a little bit to get it right, until you can see that the face is highlighted properly. Yes, you need some shadow. You've got to have some shadow, but what you don't want is dramatic shadow across your face because you have a light too close to you. So hopefully that makes sense. I suggest you either copy down that diagram very quickly and have a look at it. So what you'll find is the main light will stay where it is, static. The back light will stay where it is, static. But you may want to move the fill light to get the effect that you want, to increase or reduce the shadow that you want. And it will always be off to sort of one side or the other of where you are at. So that's lighting, and it's as simple as that, guys. Don't spend a fortune on lighting. If you want to diffuse any lighting that you have, go to the kitchen and nick your missus's greaseproof paper. You know that greaseproof paper that they line the bottom of the roasting dishes or the baking dishes with? That greaseproof paper works really well as a filter for the light, to diffuse the light, to soften the light that you're using. You know, people will argue about the use of halogen light or fluorescent light or LED light, which one is best. Again, guys, I'm going to say use what you've got. What I would say is don't mix them. You know, don't have a halogen light one side and an LED light the other side, or a compact fluorescent the other side. So don't mix the lights, because you'll get strange effects and off effects with them. But play with the lights. You know, move the lights further away. One of the things I used to do, I still from time to time will do, is bouncing light off of walls. So that helps to diffuse the light as well. So if you have a really strong halogen light, like a 500 watt halogen light, and rather than pointing that at you and getting that really stark whiteness, you can bounce that light off of the ceiling or off of a nearby wall, and that light will bounce back and be diffused as it comes back to you. So play around with the lighting until you get it right in the video. Is it important? Yeah, it's important to make sure that the video's lit so you don't get that grainy effect, but you're not looking at doing Hollywood style movies. But you also don't want huge shadows thrown all around the background, being distracting to the people that you're trying to communicate to, that you're trying to get your content across to. So play with the lights, work with the lights. Don't spend a fortune on lights. You know, as S.P.A.R.K.S guys, you've got an abundance of lighting available to you. Just make use of what you've got, and if you need to diffuse it, greaseproof paper does the job. Simple. You don't need to go and buy great big diffusing boxes or anything like that. I think actually in the slide that I had up a moment ago, which is coming up again, that's exactly what they're using there to diffuse just standard standing lamps, is some greaseproof paper. Simple as that. Does the job, works extremely well. Okay, so any other questions on lighting or anything like that, guys, please do get them into the box. I'm going to come to the questions in just a moment. I want to get through the last few bits and pieces of this before we come on to the questions. But if you do have any questions, guys, before my voice goes, get them into the box. Remember that this live cast will disappear approximately 1 hour after we have done this morning. That will disappear about an hour or so after we are done. Hopefully you're getting some value from this. Hopefully you're learning something from this. Hopefully it's encouraging you to do something with videos. Hopefully from this I'm going to have a few of you contact me and say, James, I'm using some of the tips that you've given me to create the Toolbox TV that you're after me for. So hopefully that will be the case. What have I got down here? Simon Smith, James, how do you install the lower third on NCH software? Simon, good question, and I'll create a video later and I'll post it in the group to show how that's done. But it is very simple. Once you put the video in, let me can I do this? Can I do this? I'll tell you what, while I'm finishing these questions, who would like to see me do that live? Now it's going to take a couple of minutes of setup to do that live. I can show you how you load a video in and how you set up the lower third in there. If you want me to do that live, then just say yes, live in the box. Do that now, and I can demonstrate that. And while I'm waiting for you to comment on that, while I'm waiting for you to do that, I'm going to finish up on the slide, so at least we're done and finished, and then I can show you and then move forward. Okay. So let's have some comments then, if that is something that you are interested in. Let's have some yeses in the box if you'd like that to happen. Wonderful. Okay, cool. So moving on then, lighting, we've done that. Audio, guys, people will forgive a shoddy video, but they will run away from bad audio. If people have to struggle to hear what it is you're saying, and that just goes back to what I said in the beginning about why I moved to the Zoom Q4, because of the audio quality that you got off of the basic camera without having to plug in any mics and that. It still had the mic jack in it, but audio on any videos that you create, make sure that the audio track is solid, is good, can be heard. If there is lots of crackling, if it's faint, if it fades in, fades out, people will go away. If they're distracted by that, they will go away from the video. So make sure that you have consistent audio, good, strong audio in your video. Check it before you release it. You know, when you edit the video, you can play with the audio tracks inside the software. You can increase the volume, decrease the volume. You can filter and take out some of the crap. But make sure that the audio is solid on every single video. The other thing I will say is be aware of locations where you are recording. Make sure that there's not huge amounts of noise, lots of distractions, particularly behind you. You know, if you're working on a site, if you're demonstrating on a site and there's lots of stuff going on behind you, it can become very distracting and take away from the information that you're doing or that you're giving. So make sure that excuse me, voice is definitely going. Make sure that you select your location carefully. Also things like, you know, when you're presenting a video, and I'm sure you've probably seen some of these on YouTube, there's gags about them and all that as well, but be careful about having, you know, like trees growing from the back of your head, or, you know, photographs coming out of your ears. All of these type of things that people would look at and go, oh, that's funny and distracting. Yeah, it might be humorous, but if it's detracting from the message that you're giving, then it's wasting the effort that you're putting into creating the video. So be very conscious of where you're doing stuff, the environment that you're in, too much noise, too much activity, and not having stuff growing out of parts of your body while you're actually presenting. Location. Okay, sweet. Moving on. Right, other tips. Some biggies coming up here. Right, pay attention. Listen up. When you are recording any kind of content on your videos, one of the key things to do is be yourself. This is so important. I'm going to say it again. Be yourself. People tend to have a problem when they turn on a video. They want to turn into a newsreader, or they want to turn into a Hollywood star, or something of that effect. So stand back and just think. You want to build relationships with your customers. You want the person on video to be the same person who turns up face to face on the doorstep. So if you start trying to overemphasize or act up, then that's not the same person that's going to turn up on the doorstep. So be yourself. Relax and be yourself. Everybody else is taken. You just need to be you. Be your authentic self. Don't try and flower things up. Don't try and be. Well, you've seen some. You will have seen some stuff on YouTube where you look at people and you think that's not you. That's not the real you. You're hamming it up. You're acting. You're doing whatever. Just be you. Okay. Hopefully, when you guys see me on video, when you see me on these live casts, it's me. You're getting me. I'm not trying to be a flash newsreader. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to act or be any kind of Hollywood star or anything like that. I'm me. And that's what comes across. Was it always that way? No, because like a lot of people, when you start doing videos and you start doing stuff, you're nervous in front of the camera. You try to act like somebody. You try to present an image. Stop it. Just stop it, because there's too much energy wasted doing it. Be yourself. Don't script is another one. Do not script videos, because when you script, you need to remember. If you script out your videos, you are either then reading, and that's so obvious when somebody is reading a script and they are not engaged with the people at the other side of the camera, then they are reading, and it is very off-putting for the people who are watching the video that you are presenting. Don't read. Don't write scripts, because if you're not reading it, you're trying to memorize it. Okay, so if you don't read, some people, they'll make a script and then they'll memorize the script and they'll start presenting. Don't memorize the script, because it's obvious. Speak from in here and in here. Yeah, from your head and your heart. Speak from your head and your heart. You know your content. I say this time and time and time again to people. You know your content. That's why you're creating a video, to tell people what you know. You don't need to script it to do it. If I was with you down the pub tonight and we were talking, you wouldn't have a script in front of you. If you were explaining something to me, if we sat in the curry house and you were explaining something to me, you wouldn't need a script to do it. You would just do it. So do the same on video. Now, on video, you may need pointers. You may think, because we've all done it. We've all, I will go on a presentation like this, and I know there are things I want to cover. Now, I'm lucky enough on a presentation like this, I have PowerPoint slides to prompt me, but I don't have scripts. The PowerPoint, get my tongue back in. The PowerPoint slides prompt me in what I have to say, the areas I have to cover. But what I speak about comes out from here and here, from my head and my heart. So you know your stuff, you know your information, so you may need prompts. And I always suggest to people, get yourself some post-its and bullet point. Just bullet point what it is you want to cover. One word, bullet point. It should trigger. Now I'm just sticking this behind the camera here, and you stick the post-it behind your camera with one word bullet points, and it guides you, so you know, well, okay, I've covered that, I've covered that, I've covered that. My video's over. They're not scripts. They are literally points. They are literally, all they're doing is giving you a keyword or a trigger to say, I wanted to cover that area, therefore I have covered it. Job done. But the words come out from your head and your and your heart. Do not script. And most of all, when you're doing video, relax. Just relax. I've seen so many videos of people, and you know, over the last few years while we've been doing this now, and people coming through either the business builder or the masterminds and so on and so forth, who they get hyped up and they get worked up and they get all tense in the video, and I think to myself, why? And there's something about when you turn on, you know, you're fine until you turn on and the red light goes on, whether it's on the ZI8 or whether it's on the phone, you turn it on, and then suddenly the person turns into a tense, I don't know, wound up, spring wound individual. And the bottom line is, and here is the slide I'm going to leave you with, the bottom line is, nobody needs to see anything that you create until you are ready to show it. So why do we get so wound up? You know, if we're in a room with a video on our own, with a video camera or a phone on our own, and we're recording something, why can't we just relax into it, just be ourselves, just record what we want? And you know what? If we're not happy with it, fucking delete it. Nobody needs to see it. But yet we will work ourselves up and we'll forget our words and we'll do, because we're trying so hard, and then we have to create it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and then we get frustrated with it, and then we go, oh fuck, I can't do video. It's too hard. And what we're doing up here is we're making it hard for ourselves. If you take away one thing from this right now, it's this slide, this one that's up on screen now. Nobody needs to see your freaking video until you are ready to show it to them. So why not just be yourself? Why not just relax on the camera, do what you've got to do, look at it and go, yeah, I'm happy with that, great, I'll use that. Or, you know what, that's a pile of shit, delete. No fucker's ever going to see that one. Job done. Easy. And yet we get ourselves all worked up. Oh, I can't do video. I can't stand in front of a camera. I can't do this. I can't do that. For crying out loud, you stand in a room on your own. Nobody knows you're recording a video except you. So do it. Look at it. Yeah, that's good enough. I can use that. No, that's not good enough. Or you know what? Even if you're not sure yourself because we're our worst critic, send it to me. Send it to one of your mates and say, do you think that's good enough? Should I use that? Could I use that? I think out of everything I've said this morning, this is probably the most valuable tip. Because so many people don't do video because they can't get over themselves. And it's holding them back. It's stopping them. And video can be so impactful. You know, without video, I wouldn't have the business I have now with the toolbox. Without video, Steve Palmer wouldn't have gone viral and gotten all the local kudos that he's getting. Yeah? Video, it can be phenomenal for your business. You just need to get over any hang-ups you have with it.